Hey everyone, Mason here. It's pretty common that people want to send push notifications as part of their smart home setup. And a common request is to be able to send an email based on some other action happening with maybe some sensor they're tracking or some other piece of equipment that they have as part of their smart home. So today I was going to show how you can send an email through Node-RED and then take that a step further to show how you can queue that up based on something that you're tracking within your smart home. Let's get started. So I'll go ahead and get started with this blank flow so we can just first show the most basic setup for sending an email through Node-RED. We'll use an inject node as well as an email node. Make sure you're choosing the one with the connector on the left since this is going to be receiving from the inject node. Go ahead and connect those together. When you're using an inject node, the payload is going to be the body of the email. Go ahead and change that to string. Just go ahead and put test email in for the body. The topic is going to be the subject of the email. Go ahead and fill those out like that. And just give it a quick name. Now in the email node, that's where you'll define the sender and recipients of the email. So let's go ahead and open that up. So you can include a single recipient, or you can also put a comma delimited list to send to multiple email addresses in the to field. Go ahead and just include one here. Down this bottom section, you'll define the sender email address, where the user ID is the actual email address and the password is the password for that account. This account will have to have some security settings changed to allow less secure apps to run through it. I'll show that setup a little bit later in the video. But first I'll just go ahead and plug in that user ID. And then next I'll put in the password for that Gmail account. And then I'll just give this a quick name. Then I can test this basic setup by deploying, injecting on my inject node. You can see it's said sending underneath our email node. And actually I can now see that I have an email in my inbox. I'll go ahead and flip over to that. And you can see test subject for our subject, test email in the body, just like we had it set up. Great. Now before I go on to show a slightly more advanced automation that might send an email, let me show you how you can set up your Gmail account to be able to be used as the sender account. So I'm going to flip over to my Google account for this Mandan Alerts Gmail account. And from the main page, you can just search for less secure apps. And this setting here is what you need to turn to on, which I already have on, but it will be off by default if you're creating a new email account for this purpose. Alright, now let's jump back over to Node-RED. Let's go ahead and jump over to this Alerts tab, and we can take a look at another flow that I had set up that would make use of this email functionality. The basic idea of this flow was to send myself an email if my garage door had been open for more than 15 minutes. We had a few incidences of leaving our garage door open longer than we had wanted to, and just wanted to prevent that from happening in the future. So I set up this basic flow here. So I'll start off by saying we have our garage door set up as a cover component within Home Assistant, which means we can track the state of it using one of these poll state nodes. So I'll go ahead and open up the one we have set up here. So the way that this works is you'll define the entity ID of the entity that you want to check. You can get this from Home Assistant pretty easily. You define the update interval, which is how many seconds to check the current state of that entity. The halt if state line says whether or not you should continue the flow based on the entity's current state. In our case, I'm just halting the flow if it's closed because we don't want the flow to continue if our garage door is closed. Okay, let's take a look at this next node here. We have some custom logic defined in this function node. I'll just step through each phase of this logic. This top if statement is checking the value of message.data.time since changed ms. And this is how many milliseconds have passed since the entity has changed to the current state. So this is ultimately checking how long has the garage door been open. If it's less than 15 minutes, this if statement will be true. Then we will jump down into this block here. We're going to reset this flow level variable since we could have previously set it on an earlier round of opening and closing the garage. So we just want to start off with a clean slate if it's under that 15-minute mark. Then we're also going to return null, which will stop the flow from continuing. Then this next section has another if statement that checks the value of that flow level variable. If it's set to 1, then we will also return null to stop the flow. And what this is doing is stopping myself from getting an email every 1 minute after that 15-minute mark. Once I have received one email, just want it to be done at that point. So that's where we're short-circuiting the flow. So down in this next section, we can assume it has been over 15 minutes and it's the first time that we're crossing that threshold. So I'm going to go ahead and set that flow level variable so we can check it the next time through. And then also we're going to set up our message object with a couple variables. The payload is going to hold the body of the email. And this is similar to what we did with the inject node in the payload field. You can add dynamic data to it as well, like you see here where I'm returning the date. So this is going to say the garage door is open at, and it'll have the time and date stamp with the email. Then the topic here is again going to be the subject, similar to the inject node again. You can also define the sender and recipients within the message object, but I wouldn't recommend doing that since you can define both of those in your email node and make it a little bit more modular. Then the last thing we're doing here is returning that message object to make use of it within the email node. And this email node is set up the same way that we previously did with our sender email address and password, and also the receiver email address, which again, this can be a comma delimited list of emails if you want to send it to multiple people. And also, I know in both of my examples I have the same email address as the sender and receiver. You do not need to do that, and you probably won't want to do that for your specific use cases, but I just wanted to set it up this way for an example. I ran through and tested this out earlier, and I'll go ahead and show you what the email looked like from this. So you can see the garage door open as a subject, just like we had defined in our message object. And then we have the body of the email, which has the garage door is open at, and then it has our date and timestamp here. Great. Well, that concludes my introduction to sending emails from your smart home using Node-RED. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, make sure to include those below as well. Hope you enjoyed.